ثم أما بعد. We will continue. As always, we start with praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sending the peace and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unto the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And furthermore, I would like to thank all my brothers and sisters who are tuning in and listening in. May Allah reward them with good. May Allah reward them abundantly. May Allah keep all of us firm upon this beautiful religion, the religion of Islam. And likewise, I'd like to thank my brothers in the administration of the Sunnah Saga channel for having me speak on their platforms and for hosting those classes and arranging and organizing those classes. May Allah reward them abundantly for their efforts. Ameen. And as to continue our class, our regular class, which we titled as the New Muslim class, we, as always, we try to take a couple of questions from the brothers and the sisters. So one question that came was regarding the use of alcohol in cooking, or food that was cooked or that has alcohol as part of its ingredients. What is the ruling of that? The people of knowledge, they say that this depends on the food itself, meaning the food that is made and prepared, and that is the food that is cooked and that is ready. If that food is intoxicating, then we should know that intoxicants are impermissible in the religion of Islam, and therefore the food would be impermissible. If the food ends up being intoxicating, then it is impermissible to eat, it is impermissible to consume, because intoxicants are impermissible in the religion of Islam. Whereas if the food is not intoxicating, then the food itself is permissible to eat. However, this is with the assumption that the person bought the food with that it has alcohol as an ingredient within it, and that the person did not go and buy, as they are buying those ingredients, that they bought alcohol. If this is the case, then that is not permissible. It is not permissible for the Muslim to buy intoxicants. I hope this is clear. So we have two different situations. We have food, like for example, some sauces and things that have flavorings and things like that. They might have some alcohol in them, a minute amount of alcohol in them. Whereas, if this is the case, like, so the person bought some sort of a dressing or a sauce or something like that, and it has a minute amount of alcohol, and when it is put with the food, this amount of alcohol is very small to the point that it is not intoxicating, meaning that it is impossible for the person to eat enough of this food it is impossible for the person to eat enough of this food to get to the point that he would have consumed an intoxicating amount of alcohol. If this is the case, then it is permissible to eat bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And likewise, if the person was to buy food that is ready, a person goes to a store or goes to a restaurant, for example, and he buys food, and that food had a small amount of alcohol in it. However, it is so small that the food itself is not intoxicating. In this case, it is impossible for the person to eat a large enough amount of the food to become intoxicating. That is permissible. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is something that, inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows, that is something that is permissible. There's no harm in it, and Allah knows best. However, it is not permissible for the Muslim to go and buy an intoxicant, whether it is alcohol or other than that, wine, liquor, beer, whatever it is. That is not permissible for the person to go and say, look at the ingredients, and finds that one of the ingredients that the making of this food calls for is wine. So the person goes and buys wine and puts it in the food. That is not permissible. This is impermissible. It is impermissible for the Muslim to go and buy these things. It is impermissible to sell them and buy them and carry them and transport them, and other than that, all of that is impermissible. Now, this was one of the questions from the brothers. or the sisters, may Allah preserve them. And another question is, what is the status of women in Islam? And I think we briefly talked about this subject before. So, in the religion of Islam, the women are honored. They are given honor and nobility. In the religion of Islam, the women are mothers, and the mother is respected. And she, as the Messenger ﷺ mentioned, she is the most deserving of one's good companionship. His mother, his respect, his love, his giving her, honoring her, and giving. So in the religion of Islam, she has a great status. And likewise, she is a sister. The women are sisters, and the person is supposed to protect his sister. The person is supposed to help and aid his sister. The sister is respected. The sister is given a great deal of nobility. Or she is a daughter. The daughters, likewise, in the pre-Islamic era of ignorance, the people used to bury their daughters. Used to either kill them or bury them alive, out of fear that they have to spend it on them, or out of fear that they consider them to be a shame, something that is shameful to have a daughter. Whereas in the religion of Islam, the Messenger ﷺ, he mentioned that the one who takes care of daughters, that he will enter, and he raises them upon righteousness and upon good, he will enter the paradise because of them. They are a means of entering the paradise. And the Messenger ﷺ, he said, love the daughters, for they keep your company, and they are kind. So the daughter is loved with the command of the Messenger ﷺ. We are commanded to love our daughters, and to raise them well, and to take care of them. Or that she is a wife. She is the person's wife. And the person's wife, he is responsible for taking care of her. That he does not eat except that he gives her food. He does not buy himself clothes except that he buys her clothes. And that he teaches her the religion, and he takes care of her. And he is responsible for spending on her. Even if she was a very wealthy person. A person might have limited income, and his wife could be very wealthy in the religion of Islam. She might be a millionaire, as they say. But yet he is responsible for all of the house expenditures. She is not responsible to pay a single penny on the house, and he is responsible. So this is from honoring the women, that their wealth is honored. A man is not allowed to come near their wealth or to take their wealth. Their wealth is honored. Their nobility is honored. They are honored. And likewise, barakallahu fikum, the women from them, for example, a person's aunt, and the Messenger ﷺ, he said regarding the aunt that she is like a mother. She is like a mother. So we find that in the religion of Islam, the women have a very noble status. However, the enemies of Islam, they attack the religion of Islam, and they claim that Islam does not give the women their due right, and other than that, and they claim that the women are abused in the religion of Islam, and this cannot be farther than the truth. For example, they talk about freedom of women, and in reality, when you look at the reality of their claim, and I think we spoke about this before, barakallahu fikum, may Allah bless you and protect you and preserve you. If you look at the reality of this claim, you find that what they are achieving or trying to achieve is the freedom to reach the women. Meaning that they don't want the freedom for the women, they want the freedom for themselves. To be able to gain the worldly pleasures of looking at the women and being able to have worldly pleasures when it comes to the women. This is the reality of this call. It has nothing to do with the freedom of the women. For this reason, you find that those people, that you find some of the disbelievers and some of those who claim that the religion, even from amongst the Muslims, that claim that the women should be free, and other than that, they use the women. They use them as a marketing tool. They have pictures of women to market their products. Sometimes their product has nothing to do with the woman that they have a picture of her. But they put those pictures in order to attract the people to the product and to sell their products. So in reality, they are abusing the women. They are making use of those women and are abusing those women. Wallah al-musta'an. And look at many of the households of the disbelievers, and likewise from the Muslims, those who in reality they do not understand the reality of Islam and the call of Islam. Those who claim that the women have freedom, and other than that, look at their households. Many times you find that they are corrupted households, that they are households that are not built upright, and they are households that do not have happiness in them, do not have because things are not balanced in the household. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the men and the women, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a balance between the men and the women, meaning that the men are usually the ones who are strong. The men are the ones who go out and work and seek the provision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and spend from the provision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas the women are usually the ones who they remain at home, they take care of the house, they take care of the family, they take care of the children, and they have a great responsibility on them. This is not by any way or means is belittling their responsibility, but rather there is a great deal of responsibility upon the women. As the Messenger ﷺ, he said, all of you are trusted and all of you will be questioned and asked about their trusts. And he ﷺ, he mentioned the women, they are trusted in regards to the houses of their husbands, and they will be questioned about their trust, meaning in regards to raising the children, because as we all know, and especially in non-Muslim countries in this day and age, where Allah al-Musta'an, work usually occupies a lot of the time of the people. Yani if a person works, as most of us do, Allah al-Musta'an, if the person works 8 to 6 long hours, by the time he comes home, the children only have an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is until they go to sleep. Yani he barely has the time to sit with them, for example, teach them some of their religious matters and the likes. So who is spending most of the time with the children, and especially in the summer, during the summer break? Who's going to spend time with them? There's one of two options. Either they throw them for the disbelievers to raise them, or the woman stays at home and takes care of the children. So the woman, and this is from the importance of the role of the mother and the woman in the household. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the woman a great deal of nobility, that she stays at home and she is responsible for raising the children, for teaching them and raising them. The summer break is about 3 months. Who's going to sit and teach the children during those months? If the father is at work, if the mother is at work, then they will have to find someone to take care of them, and many people end up throwing them or leaving them with disbelievers, or with people who are ignorant about the religion and far away from steadfastness upon the religion. Whereas if the woman stays at home and takes care of the children, raises them, teaches them with the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she will receive a great reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for teaching her children. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to preserve and protect all of our brothers and sisters in Islam, and to guide all of us to that which is pleasing to Him. Now, as to go back to the book that we are studying, which is the 3 fundamental principles by Al-Imam Al-Mujaddid, Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah ta'ala, then the author, rahimahullah, as we mentioned in the previous class, he started with a 3rd introduction, because the author, rahimahullah, he mentioned and he has 3 small introductions and then the actual topic of the book that he intended to cover. So in this 3rd introduction, he, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, he said, no, may Allah grant you the ability to obey Him, that Al-Hanifiyya, the religion of Ibrahim, of Abraham, the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Messenger of Allah, is that you worship Allah alone, making the religion sincere, solely for Him. This is what Allah ordered all of mankind to do. And this is the purpose for which He created them. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah the Exalted and High said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. The meaning of worship, the author rahimahullah said, the meaning of worship, to worship me, is to single me out. We already talked about all of that. And then the author rahimahullah, the author, may Allah have mercy on him, he said the greatest thing that Allah commanded with is tawheed, which is singling out Allah in worship. And the greatest thing that Allah warned against is shirk, is polytheism, which is supplicating to others along with Him, or to worship other than Allah along with Him, or to worship other than Allah. So the author rahimahullah in this third introduction, he mentioned that the greatest thing that Allah the Exalted and High commanded us with is tawheed, is singling Him out in worship, worshipping Him alone with no partners. And the word tawheed comes from the Arabic word wahid, which means one. And it means that He made something to be one. And this can only happen by way of negating and affirming. Negating that anything else is worthy of worship, and affirming that Allah alone is the one that is worthy of worship. So this is the meaning of the word, this is the root word of tawheed. It comes from the meaning of one. That's why you hear some people, they say the oneness of Allah, the oneness of Allah. Because Allah is one, meaning the one who is worthy of worship is one. And it is Allah alone with no partners. And anything that is worshipped besides Allah is not worthy of worship. And the legislative meaning of tawheed, as the author rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, said, it is to worship Allah alone. It is to single out Allah in worship. And here the author, may Allah have mercy on him, is talking specifically about the tawheed, about singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for which the messengers were sent. Because this is where people fall into mistakes and into errors in, mostly. It is the matter and the subject of singling out Allah in worship. Because we should know that there is a more general meaning of the word tawheed. And that more general meaning of the word tawheed, it is to single out Allah in everything that is specific for Him. To single out Allah in everything that is specific for Him, or specific to Him. And that is of three types. There is tawheed al-rububiyyah, singling out Allah in His lordship, which means to believe that Allah is the creator, and there is no creator other than Allah. And Allah is the provider, and there is no provider other than Allah. Allah is the sustainer, and there is no sustainer other than Allah. And other than this, from the actions of lordship, that Allah is the Lord, is the creator, provider, sustainer, alone with no partners. And this is the tawheed al-rububiyyah, singling out Allah in His lordship. And this is in regards to the actions of Allah. This is in regards to the actions of Allah. And then there is singling out Allah in our own actions. Singling out Allah in our own actions, meaning to single out Allah in our worship. To worship Allah alone. And this is tawheed al-uluhiyyah, singling out Allah in His worship. To single Him in worship, the Exalted and High. That one does not worship anything other than Allah, with all types of worship, regardless of what it is. Whether it is supplication, or prayer, or fear, or hope, or slaughtering, or other than that, slaughtering the animals, or other than that, charity, whatever it is that the person does from the acts of worship, that he does it sincerely for the sake of Allah, that he does not seek nearness to other than Allah in worship, does not worship anything other than Allah, does not supplicate and ask other than Allah, does not pray for other than Allah, does not ask other than Allah, does not slaughter for other than Allah, and so on and so forth. From the different acts of worship. Does not fear the fear of secret, meaning not the physical fear, such as a person seeing a dangerous animal, a dangerous beast, and becoming afraid. This is not what is referred to, but rather the fear of secret, meaning to know that Allah alone, with no partners, is the one who knows what we conceal and that which we show. And so we fear Him in regards to all of our actions and all of our statements. This is to be done sincerely for the sake of Allah. And that the person, for example, does not think from singling out Allah, is that the person does not believe or think that there is someone else other than Allah who can see the things that he conceals, and therefore he fears Him like the fear of Allah. That is associating partners with Allah in regards to worship. And then the third type of singling out Allah is in regards to the names and the attributes of Allah. In regards to the names and attributes of Allah. And that is that the person affirms to Allah, the Exalted and High, all of the names and all of the attributes that He affirmed to Himself, either in His book or in the authentic Sunnah of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of the names, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named Himself with names and described Himself with attributes, with different descriptions. So from singling out Allah and from Tawheedullah, singling out Allah is to affirm to Allah that which He affirmed to Himself from names and attributes, without negating them, without altering their meanings, without also in singling them out, meaning that one does not claim that any of the creation resemble Allah or is like Allah, and without trying to explain how the names and the attributes of Allah are. Or rather, one affirms them to Allah in a way that befits Him, the Exalted and High. And we should know that the difference between the attributes of Allah and the attributes of the creation is just like the difference between the Creator and the creation. And that is, of course, without a doubt, is a vast difference. And the creation cannot be compared to the Creator, the Exalted and High. And likewise, in regards to the attributes of Allah, His attributes are in a way that befit Him, and our attributes are in a way that befit us. And of course, this is a lengthy matter. And if you are interested in learning more about this matter, with the bounty of Allah, we are going through a book that is called Al-Wasitiyya by Ibn Taymiyyah. We're also explaining it, and it is available. So you can listen to that explanation in which we go into a great deal of detail regarding this matter. The matter of singling out Allah in regards to His names and attributes. Believing in Allah's names and attributes in the correct way. So the author, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, here he spoke specifically regarding singling out Allah and worship. Why is that? This is because associating partners with Allah in regards to worshipping other than Allah, is the greatest error of all errors. And it is the greatest error that many of the polytheists at the time of the Messenger ﷺ, and until our recent times, that people worship other than Allah. And this is the greatest sin of all of the major sins. And this is the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the prophets and the messengers to call the people to single out Allah and worship. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. And indeed we have sent in every nation a messenger, proclaiming and calling to worship Allah and stay away from the Taghut, meaning anything that is worshipped or obeyed besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while He is in approval of it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded all of the prophets and all of the messengers to call the people to worship Allah alone and stay away from anything that is worshipped besides Allah. This is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah the Exalted and High, sent the prophets and the messengers. And likewise, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to go to the marketplaces and call the people and tell them, say La ilaha illallah, say there is none worthy of worship except Allah, you will succeed. So this is what he started his call with, to call the people to single out Allah and to worship Allah alone with no partners. And he continued upon that until his death, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was on his deathbed, and he was saying, may the curse of Allah be upon the Jews and the Christians, for they took the graves of their prophets as places of worship. Aisha radiallahu anha, his wife, the mother of the believers, Aisha, she said he was warning the people against that which they did, meaning the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. He was warning the believers against doing that which they did by making his grave as a place of worship. So he ended his call and he ended his life with calling the people to single out Allah, to worship Allah alone with no partners. And one who has an error in regards to this matter, even if he affirms that Allah is the creator and that He alone is the creator and provider and sustainer, and other than this, from the lordship of Allah, if one falls into an error in regards to singling out Allah in worship, then he is considered a polytheist, and all of his actions, or he actually leaves the fold of Islam because of worshipping other than Allah. Of course, we say that this is a general statement and cannot be established on specific individuals without very specific conditions. So this is not something for us to rush and claim that so and so is out of the fold of Islam because he worshipped other than Allah. No, this is something that we say it is in general. Whomsoever worships other than Allah, then he leaves the fold of Islam. And we keep it as a general statement. When it comes to specific individuals, then this is for the people of knowledge, and there are very specific conditions that the people of knowledge are aware of and they study and understand. So it is not for us to go and claim the people to be out of the fold of Islam because of falling into polytheism or because of doing an act of worship to other than Allah. Because the person might be ignorant, the person might be forced to do it, and other than this. And so the call to single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the call of all of the prophets and the messengers. And from this, we should understand, we should realize, we should keep in mind that if we find any caller who claims to be calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and does not concentrate on the topic of tawheed, of singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in worship, worshipping Allah alone with no partners, we should know and understand that there is an error in his call, and that he is not upon the path of the prophets and the messengers and the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and may Allah be pleased with them. We should come to realize if the person, his da'wah, his call is only regarding good manners, is only regarding for example, dealings and how to deal with people, or only regarding for example, regarding specific things from as they say, the things that make the person, that soften the people's hearts, warning against sins and calling the people to do righteous good deeds, and he ignores the topic of singling out Allah in worship, then there is an error in his call. And it is not a call that is based upon the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nor would it be upon the way of his companions, may Allah be pleased with them. When the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent Mu'adh radiyallahu anh, he sent him to the people of Yemen. He sent him to the people of Yemen, and he said to him, "You will come to people of the book, people of the book," meaning the Christians. They were Christians, and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to him, "Make the first thing you call them to is to single out Allah in worship, and yuwahhidullah. And then if they obey you to that, then command them with the 5 daily prayers to the end of his statement, sallallahu alaihi wasallam." So this is something of utmost importance. And then the author, rahimahullah, the author, may Allah have mercy on him, and he said, and the greatest thing that Allah warned us against is shirk, is associating partners with Allah. Inshallah, we will talk more about this in the next class, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا